Imagine opening a barn door that has not moved since before you were born. Dust hangs in the air like a thin fog. Old hay crunches softly under your shoes. Sunlight sneaks through broken boards and narrow beams. The light cuts the darkness into stripes. In the middle of that silent room sits a car. Its paint is dull. Its chrome is pitted. Its tires are half flat. Even under decades of dust, you still recognize the shape. Once, this car turned heads on the open road. Now it waits in the shadows, half remembered, half forgotten. For a moment, everything goes quiet. You are not just looking at an object. You are looking at a frozen memory. Someone once saved for years to buy this car. Someone brought it home, proud and excited. Weekends, road trips, late night drives, all started from this driver's seat. Children fell asleep on the back seat, coming back from holidays. Lovers argued, laughed, and made peace, with this dashboard as witness. All of that life now sleeps under a soft, gray blanket of dust. This is the world of barn finds. Cars that slipped out of daily life. Cars that disappeared into sheds, barns, garages, and forgotten buildings. They were parked for one season. They were parked until the parts arrived. They were parked until there was more time. That extra time never came. The door closed. The years passed. The world moved on, but the car stayed. In videos and photos, people often show the dramatic ending of a barn find. The first wash, the first start, the first drive into sunlight. But the real story begins much earlier. It starts with families, with factories and long roads, with a time when these now forgotten machines were brand new and full of promise. In this first chapter, we are not yet turning wrenches. We are not checking oil or fuel lines. We are going back in time. We want to understand how a car travels from family hero to dusty ghost. If you want to feel why barn finds move people so deeply, you first need to understand the full life of a classic car. Picture the 1960s or the late 1970s. A new car arrives in front of a small house in a quiet neighborhood. The neighbors step outside and watch. The paint shines in the sun. Chrome glows on the bumpers. Inside, everything smells like fresh vinyl and new carpet. There is a light perfume of gasoline and warm metal. Maybe it is a family sedan. Maybe it is a tiny European hatchback. Maybe it is a proud American coupe with long doors and a loud V8. No matter the shape, one thing is sure. For the family that just bought it, this is not just transportation. It is freedom. On Friday nights, the car becomes a symbol of escape. Parents load the trunk with soft bags and boxes. Kids fight for the window seat. Someone checks that the radio works. Someone slides a cassette into the player. The house grows smaller in the rearview mirror. The car carries them out of the city, past gas stations and small diners, toward campgrounds, beaches, forests, and grandparents' houses. At the wheel, the driver feels a gentle vibration through the steering wheel, the steady hum of the engine under their feet, the sense that the road is now open and life is moving forward. If you were a child in those decades, you remember the details. The way the seatbelt cut lightly into your neck, the sound of the turn signal ticking, like a patient clock, the feeling of half sleeping against a warm window, streetlights passing overhead in a slow rhythm, your head knocking softly against the glass and the fabric. Maybe you remember the smell of your parents' cigarettes mixing with cold night air. Someone opens a window, just a little. The wind whistles and the ash glows orange, then disappears into the dark. You might remember the way the engine note changed, climbing a hill, passing a truck, dropping down a gear on a country road. Back then, none of this felt special. It was just daily life. Today, every small detail has turned into a piece of nostalgia. The cars that later become barn finds almost always start their lives like this. They are not born as legends. They begin as ordinary family cars. They are daily companions. They are loyal machines that wait every morning in front of the house. They take kids to school. They take parents to work. They carry friends to weddings and funerals. They haul shopping bags and boxes. They move furniture and bicycles. They bring home Christmas trees and baby seats. They sit quietly in the background of thousands of photographs. They appear in old home movies and grainy videotapes. They are woven into family stories without anyone really noticing. Now imagine one of those stories in detail. It is the summer of 1978. The last day of school has just finished. The air is warm. The sun feels heavy on the pavement. In a small driveway, a father is packing the family car for the big holiday. A roof rack squeaks as he tightens the straps. Suitcases go in first, then a folding table, then a plastic cooler that will smell like oranges and cola for the whole trip. The mother brings out blankets and pillows for the back seat. She checks the windows. She checks the stove. She checks the list one last time. Two kids run in circles around the car. They argue about who will sit by the window. They hide their toys under the seats, just in case someone tells them to bring fewer things. The neighbor leans on the fence. He smiles and says, "You picked a good day to leave." The father closes the trunk with a solid, confident sound. He walks around the car once. He taps the roof like a ritual. Then he opens the driver door and slides in. The key turns. The engine wakes. Not quietly, but with a warm, familiar growl. The radio finds a station playing soft rock. The fan pushes warm air onto the windshield. Seatbelts click one after another. The house shrinks in the mirror. The street opens into a larger road. The city slowly dissolves into fields and low hills. Hours later, the kids are half asleep in the back. Their heads roll with the motion of the car. The sunset paints the dashboard in gold and orange. At a gas station, the family steps out to stretch. The car stands there, paint shining under fluorescent lights, engine ticking softly as it cools. No one there can imagine that one day, this same car might spend 30 years under a layer of dust. Back then, it is just a piece of normal life, a trusted tool, a faithful witness. So how does a car like that end up forgotten under a layer of dust? How does a family member become a ghost? The answer is rarely one big dramatic event. Most of the time, it is a slow fade. Little things change, one after another, until one day, the car simply does not leave the driveway again. Maybe it begins with a new job in another city. The commute becomes longer. The family suddenly needs something more modern and more comfortable. They want air conditioning. They want better fuel economy. They want something that feels up to date. Or there is a new baby on the way. The old two-door coupe no longer makes sense. Climbing in and out of the back becomes a wrestling match. The budget is tight. The family cannot keep everything. So they tell themselves a simple story. They say, "We will park it for a while. We will fix it later. We will use it again when life is less busy." Later rarely comes. Sometimes the slow fade begins under the hood. The car starts to smoke a little. A strange knock appears at certain speeds. The gearbox begins to slip. Rust appears around the wheel arches. The brake pedal feels soft. A mechanic lifts the hood, takes a deep breath, and says, "It will be an expensive repair." At that moment, the owner has to choose. They can invest time and money into an old car, or they can move on to something newer, easier, more practical. Most people choose the second path. They park the car just for now, under a carport, beside the garage, behind the house. The story freezes there, or at least it looks frozen. In reality, time keeps moving. The 1970s and 1980s added extra pressure. Fuel crises made big engines look greedy. New safety regulations and emission rules made old cars feel outdated overnight. Companies pushed shiny new models with bold advertising, better mileage, more features, soft seats, and new colors. Why keep the old wagon when you can get the latest hatchback with front-wheel drive and a warranty? old cars slipped quietly to the back of the property, under tarps and under trees, behind barns and behind workshops. New cars took their place on the street. The old ones looked more tired every year. No one planned for a barn find. They simply parked the car out of the way. They told themselves they would decide later. Sometimes, a car arrives in a barn for reasons that do not fit any spreadsheet. The decision is not practical. It is emotional. A loved one passes away. Their car sits in the driveway, still carrying their smell, their favorite radio station, their fingerprints on the steering wheel. Selling the car feels impossible. Driving it feels even harder, so the family rolls it into a garage or pushes it into a storage building. They close the door and say, "We will decide what to do later." Later turns into months. Months turn into years. Years turn into decades. By the time someone finally opens the door again, the car has changed. It is still the same object, the same seats, the same badge on the hood, but the memory around it has cooled. What was once fresh and painful is now distant and fragile. The car has turned from moving memory into silent monument. From the outside, a barn find often looks like pure luck. A treasure hunter opens a door and finds a rare sports car, a valuable muscle car, a perfectly preserved family sedan. Social media loves the surprise, the dramatic reveal, the numbers and the headlines. But behind almost every barn find, there is this same human pattern, a period of intense daily use, a slow retreat into the margins of life, and finally, a long sleep in the dark. In this first part of our journey, we are building the emotional map of that sleep. We are not yet talking about prices. We are not talking about auctions or record-breaking sales. We are not even trying to decide if a car should be restored or kept with all its original scars and patina. Right now, we are simply recognizing something basic. Every dusty car in a barn was once someone's pride, someone's project, someone's problem, sometimes someone's heartbreak. There is also a quiet economic side to this story. In many rural areas and even on the edges of towns, it has often been cheaper to store an old car than to dispose of it properly. Scrapping a car can mean towing fees, paperwork, a long drive to the nearest yard. Parking it in a barn costs nothing. Rolling it behind a shed takes one afternoon, so the car stays. It collects dust instead of recycling tickets. What looks today like an intentional act of preservation was often just the easiest choice at the time. Still, even if the decision was lazy, the result is powerful. Time did something that no one expected. It took these ordinary machines and wrapped them in the magic of rarity. The station wagon that nobody wanted in the 1990s suddenly became interesting in the 20s. The small hatchback that once embarrassed teenagers now makes them smile when they see one at a show. The old pickup that felt too slow for modern highways now looks just right on a quiet Sunday road. That is why barn finds are not only about high-dollar cars. Yes, there are famous stories of rare sports cars under blankets. Yes, there are limited edition muscle cars sleeping on flat tires. But just as often, the most moving barn finds are the simple ones. The humble car that carried a family through hard years. The work truck that helped build a farm or a small business. The honest little sedan that never won a race, but never failed to start on cold mornings. These cars were not meant to be special. They became special because they survived. They survived time. They survived fashion. They survived the crusher. To really feel the weight of a barn find, try a simple exercise. Think of a car from your own past. Maybe the first car you learned to drive in. Maybe the one your parents had when you were small. Maybe the car that took you to school or brought you home after important moments. Picture its dashboard. Picture the pattern on the seats. Picture the shape of the steering wheel. Remember the sound the doors made when they closed. Remember the smell of the interior on a hot day. Remember how the engine sounded when it turned over. Now imagine that very car, not one like it, not the same model, the exact car. Imagine it sitting in a barn somewhere. It is dusty but complete. The keys are still in a drawer in the house. The old registration papers are still in the glove box. Suddenly, that car is not just old metal. It is a time machine with your name on it. This personal connection is what makes barn finds so powerful as stories. When you see a thumbnail on YouTube showing a dusty car with the words, "Stored 35 years, first wash in decades," a small part of your brain wants to click. Secretly, you hope that this story will feel a little bit like your own. You want to see if the car comes back to life because you are imagining what it would feel like to bring a piece of your own past back from the shadows. Before a car can be reborn, it has to disappear. That disappearance is rarely loud. Most of the time, it is quiet. One last trip, one last turn of the key, one last moment when the engine runs, the radio plays, and the lights switch off. After that, the car is rolled into storage, or pushed to the back of a property, or parked where the grass will slowly grow around its tires. The owner tells themselves a story. They say they will fix it when they retire. They say they will fix it when the children grow up. They say they will fix it when money is less tight. Life keeps moving. The car stays still. Years later, when someone finally slides that barn door open again, it feels like interrupting a long sleep. The air inside smells of wood, oil, and old fabric. Spider webs connect mirrors to walls. Mice have chewed the seats. The colors are faded, but the shapes are the same. The steering wheel is still there. The badge on the hood still spells the same name. The car has been absent from the world for so long that it feels almost mythical. When the light touches it again, it is like meeting a ghost that slowly decides to become solid. A barn find is not only a personal time capsule, it is also a snapshot of an era in car design and technology. The switches, the gauges, the materials, all of them speak the language of their decade. A dashboard from the 1950s looks like furniture from a chrome diner. A cockpit from the 1970s feels like a small airplane with thin pillars, big round dials, and long, simple levers. The boxy plastics of the 1980s tell you about a time when efficiency, safety regulations, and cost cutting began to reshape the shapes on the road. When a car sleeps in a barn, it quietly preserves these design truths. The radio that only finds a few stations. The ashtray built into the door. The crank windows that make your arm tired. The smell of real leather. Or the crackle of old vinyl. Sitting in such a car, even before it is restored, feels like sitting inside a documentary. Every control you touch whispers, "This is how people once lived. This is what they accepted as normal. This is what they called modern." For the people who rescue barn finds, these details are as important as the mechanical heart. They are not only saving an engine, they are saving a feeling. The way the seat springs resist then accept your weight. The way a metal key turns. In a simple ignition barrel. No keyless entry. No screens. No software updates. In a world where many new cars feel like computers on wheels, a barn find is a reminder. Driving used to be more physical, more direct, more human. By the time we close the door on this first block, you should feel that difference in your bones. You should be able to imagine what it is like to stand in front of a silent car and sense both its past and its potential. You do not yet know if it will run. You do not yet know if it will ever drive down a road again. But you know that somewhere, between the dust and the rust, there is a story worth telling. By now, you can feel what a sleeping car represents. A life on pause. A chapter of history folded and stored away. But barn finds do not wake themselves. Someone has to go looking for them. Enter the barn find hunter. He might be a full-time dealer. She might be a mechanic. They might be a farmer, a collector, or simply a dreamer with a trailer. From the outside, it looks like pure luck. People imagine a stranger driving down a country road, spotting a dusty shape in a field, and discovering a treasure in one afternoon. In reality, barn finds usually start long before the door opens. They begin with curiosity, with patience, with quiet obsession. A barn find hunter is part detective, part historian, and part psychologist. They read old ads. They scan local classifieds. They listen carefully at car shows and small-town diners. They ask simple questions. They say, "Did your father ever have an old car he never sold? Do you know anyone who keeps a project car in a barn? Is there still something stored behind that old workshop in the village?" Most of the time, the answer is no. Or at least, the answer sounds like no. But sometimes a phrase appears, a soft clue. There was an old Mustang at my uncle's farm. My grandfather parked his Peugeot in the barn when he stopped driving. My neighbor has a truck that has not moved since my childhood. For the barn find hunter, these sentences are like a compass needle swinging. They point in a direction. They say, quietly, "Go and look." Not every clue leads to a miracle. Some lead to nothing. Some lead to disappointment. The barn burned down years ago. The car was sold for scrap. The field with the old trucks became a supermarket. Ask any real hunter and they will tell you about the ones that got away. They will tell you about the time they drove 3 hours to reach a farm at the end of a rough track, only to find a square of fresh gravel where the old shed used to be. They will tell you about the time they arrived 1 week too late and the owner said, "You should have come last month." A scrap guy took 2 cars away. One of them was some old coupe. Those stories hurt. They feel like missed chances. But they are part of the job. The hunter keeps notes. They mark names, dates, and small details. They draw lines on maps. They build a mental geography of forgotten machines, a secret map of possible stories. Sometimes the search begins online. An old listing with bad photos. A car half hidden under boxes in a single blurry picture. Other times, it begins with memory. A man at a car show says, "My neighbor had a Jaguar in his shed when I was young." A woman at a parts store remembers, "There was a Volkswagen in my grandparents' barn. I think it is still there." The barn find hunter listens more than they speak. They know that people often downgrade their own stories. They say, "Just an old car." They say nothing special. They say, "Probably ruined by now." But just an old car from the 1960s might now be a rare survivor. Nothing special might be the exact model someone has searched for their whole life. The hunter follows these threads one by one. They drive out to farms at the end of long dirt roads. They park in front of houses with peeling paint and old tractors. They knock on doors and introduce themselves politely. They do not ask, "Do you have a valuable barn find I can buy?" They ask, "Do you still have that old car I heard about? Could I see it? Would you mind telling me its story?" Many doors stay closed. Some owners are tired of strangers. Some have heard too many promises and too few fair offers. But from time to time, a door opens just a little. The owner says, "Well, there is something in the back. Follow me." For the barn find hunter, this is the moment when the heart beats faster. Not because they already see money, but because a story is about to step back into the light. Every hunter has their own way of working. One keeps a thick notebook filled with names, phone numbers, and quick sketches of barns and sheds. Another keeps everything in their head, remembering small details from conversations they had 10 years ago. One hunter focuses only on a single brand. They chase Volkswagens or Mopars or old Volvos and ignore everything else. Another hunter loves variety. They will rescue a small city car one week and a big American boat the next. Different methods, same objective. Find the cars before time and weather. Finish the job. Before we open any door, there is something important to understand. Barn finding has unwritten rules. At the center of these rules is respect. Respect for the owner. Respect for the property. Respect for the story. The owner may have lived with this car for decades. They may have strong feelings about it. To the hunter, it might look like a simple opportunity. To the owner, it might still look like a piece of themselves. So the good barn find hunter moves slowly. They do not push. They do not insult the car. They do not say, "This thing is junk. I am doing you a favor." Instead, they listen. They ask, "When did you park it here? Who used to drive it? Do you remember the last trip you took with it?" These questions open doors inside people. Memories come back, sometimes with a smile, sometimes with a heavy pause. The first conversations are rarely about price. They are about the past, about the person who bought the car, about the years when it still went out almost every day. A good hunter lets those memories breathe. They do not check their watch. They do not rush the owner to a decision. The hunter also respects the car's condition. They do not rip open doors. They do not climb over fragile parts. They do not drag bumpers through mud. If there is another way, trust grows in small steps. Maybe the owner shows old photos. Maybe they tell a story about a long road trip or about bringing a newborn baby home in that car. Sometimes the owner is clearly ready to let go. They say, "No one in the family wants it. I do not have the time. If you can save it, I would be happy." Other times they are not sure. They say, "I do not know what it is worth. I do not want to be cheated. I do not want to see it flipped the next day." An honest barn find hunter knows this fear. They explain what they plan to do. They say, "I want to save it. I want to get it running again. I want to keep its story alive." Sometimes they show examples of cars they have rescued before. They present receipts, photos, and registrations. They might say, "Here's a car I bought last year. This is how it looked when I found it. This is how it looks now." Your car could have a similar second chance. Step by step, they prove that they are not just chasing a quick profit. A fair price is discussed slowly. The owner remembers what they paid for the car when it was new or nearly new. They think about the years of use it gave them. They balance sentiment, money, and the desire to see the car live again. In the best cases, a kind of partnership appears. The owner lets the car go. The hunter takes responsibility for its future. A handshake in a dusty barn can feel more serious than a contract because it is not only metal changing hands. It is memories. It is trust. And then, finally, the moment arrives. The owner pulls a heavy key from a pocket, or lifts an old wooden bar from its hooks, or drags a metal door sideways with both hands. The barn opens. Light enters a space that has stayed almost dark for 10, 20, sometimes 40 years. Dust dances in the air. The smell of old wood and oil comes out to meet the day. At first, you do not see the whole car. You see shapes, reflections, textures, the rounded edge of a fender, the sharp line of a roof, the circle of a headlamp, half covered in dust. Your eyes adjust slowly. Your mind works faster. You try to guess the model. You try to guess the year. You try to guess the story before you hear it. For the barn find hunter, this is a sacred moment. They do not rush forward. They do not scream with excitement. They take a breath and step inside with care. A real barn find is more than a good deal. It is a first meeting between the present and the past. Every dent, every scratch, every sticker on the bumper is a word in a long, silent sentence. The dust is thick, the tires are flat, but the car is still whole. In that instant, you feel something simple and strong. This car could have been gone. It could have been crushed. and turned into anonymous scrap metal. But it is still here, waiting. Once the door is open, the hunter begins a careful walk around the car. This is not yet a mechanical inspection. It is more like reading a biography, written in metal and dust. They look at the paint. Is it original or a later respray? They look at the panels. Are the gaps straight? Are there signs of an old accident or rough repairs? They look at the glass. Original markings in the corners. Dealer stickers. Old registration stickers that tell you when the car last saw the road. They bend down to look at the lower edges, where rust likes to hide. They look inside the wheel arches, at the floor around the pedals, at the edges of the trunk. They know where each model keeps its secrets. Inside, they look for clues of life. A parking ticket from 1984, a fuel receipt from a road trip, coins in the ashtray, a toy forgotten by a child on the rear shelf. They are not only asking, is this car solid enough to save? They are also asking, who lived with this car? What kind of roads did it see? A true barn find is not just about low mileage. It is about completeness. The original hubcaps, the correct steering wheel, the factory radio. These things matter, not only for value, for authenticity. The hunter takes mental notes. Sometimes they take photos carefully with the owner's permission. They do not rush to judgment. They know that a car can look tired and still have a strong structure. They know that a car can look shiny and still be hiding serious wounds. This first walk around is a conversation between eyes, memory, and experience. If the owner agrees and the deal is fair for both sides, the story moves to its next chapter. The car has to leave its hiding place. Sometimes this is simple. The barn has a wide door. The floor is smooth. The car rolls with a little push. Often it is not simple at all. Tires are flat. Brakes are frozen. The path outside is narrow and crowded with tools, boxes, and other forgotten things. The hunter brings basic equipment, a small compressor, a winch, or a tow strap, wooden planks, and simple tools. They add just enough air to the tires to let the car move. They check that nothing drags on the ground. They make sure the steering still turns. Then, slowly, inch by inch, they pull the car toward the light. The barn that once felt like a safe shelter now feels like a tunnel. As the car crosses the doorway, its paint, even under dust, meets direct sunlight again. Lines and curves appear more clearly. Colors wake up from a long sleep. For the owner, this can be an emotional moment. They see their old car outside for the first time in decades. It may look worse than they remember. It may look better than they expected. Either way, it is real again. No longer just a shape in the dark. No longer just a story in a sentence that begins with, we used to have, now it is here, on solid ground, ready for whatever comes next. For the hunter, this is the point of no return. The trailer is ready. The straps are waiting. The journey back to the workshop or to a new home is about to start. Before they load it, many hunters like to take one simple step. They give the car its first wash. Not a full detail, not a showroom job, just a gentle rinse, a soft brush, enough water to wash away the loose dust of the years. Bit by bit, the true color returns. Scratches appear, faded spots show up, patches of rust reveal themselves honestly. It is almost like washing a face you have not seen in a long time. You recognize the features. You see the age. You see the beauty that survived the years, anyway. In that quiet moment, standing next to a dripping car that just left a dark barn, a single question hangs in the air. Will it run? In the next block, we will begin to answer that question. We will follow the first checks. The first tools touching bolts and hoses. The first attempts to give fuel and spark back to a long, silent engine. For now, we leave the car here, freshly washed, still quiet, but no longer forgotten. The barn is behind us now. The trailer is strapped. The road back to the workshop is done. The car sits in a new kind of quiet, not the deep sleep of a dark barn, a brighter silence, a silence full of tools, light, and possibility. This is the moment when emotion meets method. In the workshop, the first rule is simple: do no harm. A barn find has survived decades. It deserves patience. It deserves a plan. The hunter becomes a caretaker, or hands the car to a mechanic who understands old metal. Before any key is turned, before any battery is connected, there is a checklist. Fluids, hoses, belts, wiring. Tires that were flat in the barn are either replaced or filled just enough to move. The car goes on a lift or on solid stands. Underneath, eyes search for rust in important places. Frame rails, mounting points, brake lines, fuel lines. Nothing about this phase is glamorous. There are no dramatic shots for social media, just a careful mind, moving step by step through a machine that has been still for far too long. A good mechanic knows that a barn find can hurt you if you rush. Old fuel can leak, seized brakes can lock, dry seals can fail the first time pressure comes back. So they start with questions. Is it safe to make this car move under its own power? Or does it need to stay a static display for now? They tap gently on metal with a small hammer. They press a finger into suspicious spots under the paint. They look for fresh stains on the floor. They follow each line from front to back. Fuel lines along the chassis. Brake lines above axles. Rubber hoses near hot parts. When something looks doubtful, it goes on the list. Not all barn finds are ready to run. Some will never turn a wheel again. They become memory pieces or parts donors or static art, but many still have fight left in them. They just need someone who is willing to listen before asking them to speak. For anyone who loves engines, this is the most delicate part. The heart of the car has not beaten for years, maybe for decades. You cannot simply throw in a fresh battery and twist the key with hope. Inside the engine, oil has sunk to the lowest points. Old fuel has turned thick and sour. Seals and gaskets have grown dry and brittle. A patient caretaker moves in stages. They drain the old fuel. They remove the old filter. They clean the lines or run a small temporary fuel source. From a clean container, they remove the spark plugs. They pour a small amount of light oil into each cylinder. They let it sit so metal can remember how to move. Then they turn the engine, slowly, by hand. A wrench on the crank pulley, gentle pressure, no rush. If the engine turns, that is already a victory. If it resists, they do not force it. They step back and reconsider the plan. Assuming it turns, they replace the oil. They inspect the ignition system, wires, points, coils. They open the air filter housing. They find dust, sometimes a small nest, evidence that the car has been part of a different ecosystem for a long time. They check for obvious leaks, fuel dripping, oil weeping, coolant stains. They clean contacts. They tighten loose grounds. They make sure that when electricity flows again, it follows the path it should. When everything looks as safe as it can be, the moment comes to spin the engine on the starter without spark. This is like a rehearsal breath. The engine turns over. Fresh oil moves through old passages. The pump wakes up. Galleries fill. Gauges flicker. Lights on the dash blink for the first time in years. Only then, when the engine has felt this first wave of oil, does the caretaker let it try to truly wake. Fuel, spark, air. 3 simple needs. 3 elements of a small miracle. If you have ever watched barn find videos, you know this scene. The camera points at the engine bay. The key turns or the starter button is pressed. Everyone holds their breath. In real life, it is rarely as simple as a single turn and a perfect idle. Very often, the first attempt fails. The starter spins, nothing more. Maybe the fuel has not reached the carburetor. Maybe the ignition needs another adjustment. Maybe a wire was missed. The caretaker does not get angry. They go back through the steps. They pump fuel carefully. They check for spark again. They listen for clicks that should not be there. Then they try once more. This time, perhaps the engine coughs. A rough sound halfway between a refusal and a promise. Another pause. Another check. Another attempt. Finally, it happens. The engine catches, just for a second. Then it dies. Then it catches again. Stays alive a little longer. Smoke comes from the exhaust. Dust burns off the manifolds. Belts complain. But there is rhythm now. After several short runs, the idle steadies. The engine finds its old voice. It does not sound perfect. It does not need to. At this stage, the goal is not a show-winning tune. The goal is proof of life. To hear a barn find run again is to hear time folding. The same crankshaft that turned in the 1970s is turning again today. The same pistons that once carried a family up long mountain roads are moving again in their old cylinders. Around the car, faces change. Jaws relax. Eyes shine. The owner hears a sound they thought they would never hear again. The hunter hears confirmation that the long search was worth it. And the car, if machines can feel anything at all, seems to remember what it was built for, to run. Once the engine runs, the temptation is strong to drop the car in gear and head straight for the open road. But a barn find is like an athlete returning after a very long rest. Muscles are stiff, reflexes are slow, joints complain. So the first drive is not a victory lap. It is a careful test. Brakes are checked thoroughly. Lines are inspected. Fluid levels are confirmed again. Rubber hoses are squeezed and bent gently. Any sign of cracking means they go on the list for replacement. If anything feels uncertain, the car moves only a few meters inside the safety of the yard. The clutch is tested. Does it grab smoothly? Does it slip? The gears are selected one by one, with the car still on stands. The wheels spin in the air. Noises are heard, then noted, then investigated. When everything looks ready, the caretaker chooses the simplest path possible. No traffic, no high speeds, no long distances, just a short loop, around the block, or down a quiet lane and back. In these first meters, truth appears. The steering might feel vague, the suspension might creak, the brakes might pull to one side. Strange smells might enter the cabin, old dust burning off, old oil heating for the first time in decades. These are not failures, they are feedback. They tell the caretaker what the car needs next. Sometimes the first drive is shorter than expected. A gauge behaves badly. A strange noise grows louder. A small leak becomes a bigger concern. The car returns to the workshop, back on stands, back under lights. Every flaw is a conversation. The car says, I survived, but I need help here, and here, and here. The caretaker listens, makes a list, plans the next steps. They decide what is urgent. Brakes, steering, safety first. Then what can wait? Small cosmetic issues, optional upgrades. It is in these moments, in the space between first start and full reliability, that an important choice appears. What kind of second life will this barn find have? When a barn find reaches this stage, it stands at a crossroads. One path leads to full restoration. The other leads to careful preservation. Both can be acts of love. Both can be done with respect. Full restoration means taking the car back as close as possible to the way it left the factory. Fresh paint, new chrome, rebuilt engine, renewed interior. Every flaw is corrected. Every worn piece is replaced or restored. The car becomes a bright, sharp version of its younger self. It can win shows. It can impress judges. It can make people say it looks better than new. The other path leaves more of the years visible. Old paint is polished, but not replaced. Thin spots, faded stripes, small dents and scratches, they stay. The interior is cleaned and repaired, but not completely reimagined. Sun cracks in the wheel, worn fabric by the driver door, soft corners on the pedals. They remain as honest marks of a real life lived. Some call this look patina. On the surface, these two approaches seem opposed. Shiny versus worn, showroom versus survivor. In truth, they are just different answers to a simple question. What story do we want this car to tell? Do we want to show how it looked in its first days when it was new and hopeful? Or do we want to show how it looks now after a long life and a narrow escape from oblivion? There is no single correct answer. A rare, historically important car might deserve a precise restoration. A humble family wagon might be more moving, with its scars still visible. The best caretakers think about this carefully. They do not just chase trends. They listen to the car. They listen to the owner. They listen to their own feelings when they stand next to it in silence. Whichever choice they make, one thing matters most. The car is back in the world. It is no longer fading in the dark. For some people, the story continues quietly. The car is enjoyed on sunny weekends. It goes to a few local shows. It lives a comfortable, gentle second life. For others, the story becomes bigger. The car is invited to special events. It appears in magazines. It becomes known as the barn find that came back. When we talk about barn finds today, we often talk about auctions, about record prices, about rare models that jump from dusty barns to bright stages under white lights. It is true, some barn finds do end up crossing big auction blocks. They bring surprising sums. They appear in magazines and online articles. They become symbols of value and rarity. But the deeper impact of barn finds lives somewhere else. It lives in the way they change how we look at the past. They remind us that history is not only stored in museums, it lives in barns, in sheds, in forgotten garages, in the quiet corners of ordinary lives. A barn find rediscovered, rescued, and returned to the road connects three timelines. The time when it was new, the time when it slept, the time when it drives again. Every time someone sees it roll by, they react in their own way. Some see the car they once wanted as a teenager. Some see the car their parents drove. Some see a shape from old films and posters. Children see something else. They see a moving piece of sculpture, a shape unlike anything in their daily traffic. They ask questions, they point, they remember. In a world that is moving toward quieter, cleaner, more digital vehicles, barn finds become rolling reminders of another era. They are not meant to fight the future. They are not an argument against progress. They are a bridge. They say, this is where we came from. This is what we learned along the way. This is how machines and memories grew together. For the person who saved the car, the journey does not end with fresh paint or a successful first drive. It continues every time they turn the key, every time they share the story, every time someone at a gas station asks, "Where did you find that?" The answer is never just a place. It is not just in a barn, on a farm, behind an old workshop. The real answer is longer. I found it in a chapter of someone's life. I found it in a gap between generations. I found it in the space between forgetting and remembering. Imagine a quiet Sunday morning. The resurrected barn find sits in the driveway, freshly washed, still wearing some of its old scars. The owner opens the door, sits down, and feels the springs push gently back. The key turns. The engine wakes more easily now. Oil is fresh. Fuel is clean. The street is calm. Shutters open slowly. Dogs bark in the distance. As the car rolls away, its shadow slides over familiar pavement. At a small cafe, the owner parks near the window. People inside look up. One person smiles, then comes outside and says, "My father had one just like that." A conversation begins. Memories step out of hiding. This is what a barn find does when it returns to the world. It does not only move itself, it moves stories from one generation to another. Barn finds do not only bring cars back, they bring back conversations. They bring back feelings. They remind us that time can bury things, but also that time can give them new meaning when they return. As our film comes to a close, imagine again the first barn from the beginning. The dust, the silence, the car waiting in the dark. Now picture that same car rolling down a small road on a clear afternoon. The paint may still carry scars. The engine may still have a rough edge, but it is moving, passing trees, casting a shadow on the pavement, catching small reflections in shop windows and cafe doors. Somewhere, someone turns their head and smiles for a second, without even knowing why. This is the quiet magic of a barn find brought back to life. Not loud, not perfect, just present. A piece of the past sharing the road with the present on its way to whatever future we choose to build. But the story of barn finds does not stop with a single owner, a single rescue, or a single quiet drive. Once a car has been pulled from the shadows and returned to the road, it enters a wider circle of guardians. Some are mechanics who keep it running. Some are detailers who protect its fragile surfaces. Some are photographers who capture it from every angle before time leaves new marks. Sometimes the next chapter begins when the car changes hands again. A younger enthusiast sees the car at a show and cannot stop thinking about it. They go home, search old brochures online, read forums late into the night, and try to understand the model in every detail. For them, this car is not a memory from childhood. It is a discovery. They might not share the same past as the first family who owned it, but they feel the same pull, the same mixture of desire and responsibility. When they finally buy the car, they are not starting from zero. They are joining a story that began long before they were born. The logbook may carry signatures in faded ink. The glove box may still hold maps for roads that no longer exist. A small dent on a door may come with a story about a narrow garage, a snowy morning, or a missed mirror. The new owner adds their own lines to that biography. They choose where to drive it. They choose who to take along. They decide how gently or how bravely to use it. Some barn finds end up in private collections, rarely seen, carefully climate controlled. Others live outside, under simple covers, still exposed to the changing seasons. Both paths have their reasons. What matters is not how perfect the car remains, but how honestly it continues to be part of real life. You can feel that honesty on certain roads, a narrow lane that runs between fields, where the surface is patched and the trees lean in close. An old highway that has been bypassed by faster routes, where gas stations have turned into empty shells and faded signs. When a resurrected barn find passes along those places, it looks like part of the landscape rather than a visitor. It belongs to that slower rhythm. On those drives, the owner may notice small new sounds, a rattle that was not there last year, a new stain on the floor where a seal has begun to sweat again. That is how old cars speak. Not with warning chimes and colorful screens, but with small changes that ask for attention. Caring for a barn find is never a finished project. It is a long conversation that stretches across years. You fix one problem, you enjoy the car for a while, and then another problem appears. For some people, this is frustrating. For others, it is exactly the point. They do not want a car that never needs them. They want a car that responds to care, that rewards patience, that gives back more than the effort it demands. Beyond the workshop and the road, there is one more space where barn finds now live: the digital world. Every photo you take of your car, every small video you upload, every paragraph you write about its history adds another layer to its presence. A car that once sat forgotten in a barn, seen only by mice and dust, can now be seen by thousands of people across the planet. A viewer in another country may never touch its steering wheel, but they can still feel its atmosphere through a screen. They can listen to its engine note in a short clip. They can read about the day it was found. They can learn from the steps taken during its rescue. This does not replace the magic of standing next to the real car, but it does something different. It shares the magic. A barn find saved in one small town can inspire someone on the other side of the world to look twice at the old cars in their own area. Maybe they start asking questions at family dinners. Maybe they visit older relatives and ask what happened to the cars in old photographs. Maybe one day they open their own barn door and see something waiting in the dark. In that way, every rescue story seeds another one. The car you saved today might become the reason someone else decides to save a different car tomorrow. The knowledge you share, the mistakes you admit, the encouragement you give, can all help another person take their first steps into this strange, beautiful world. You do not need to be a professional restorer to be part of it. You do not need a huge budget or a perfect workshop or the rarest models. You only need 3 things: respect for the machines, respect for the people who lived with them, and respect for the time it takes to do things properly. If you have those, you are already walking the same path as the barn find hunters and caretakers who came before you. So the next time you pass a quiet farm, a closed workshop, or an old house with a sagging garage door, you may feel a small question in the back of your mind. Is there something sleeping in there? Is there a car waiting for its second chance? Is there a story that no one has told yet? Most of the time, you will keep driving. Life will be busy, the day will be full, but one day, you might stop. You might turn around. You might knock on a door and ask a simple question about an old car. And that question might be the first sentence in another long story about dust, light, oil, memory, and the road. Barn finds begin in silence. They end in motion. Between those 2 points, there is a whole universe of human choices: when to let go, when to hold on, when to save, and when to say goodbye. If you decide to take part in that universe, to rescue one of these sleeping machines and share its journey with others, you become more than just an owner. You become a link in a chain that connects the past, the present, and the future. And somewhere, years from now, when your car is older, when its paint has a few more marks, when new people have sat in its seats and added their laughter to its interior, someone else may open a door, see it resting in the half-light, and say, "This one has a story. Let us hear it. Let us continue it. Let us keep it moving." When you think back over this whole journey, it is easy to believe that we have been talking only about cars, barns, and engines. But if you listen a little more closely, you can hear something deeper running underneath every scene. This story is really about time, and about the way human lives and machines cross each other's paths, then drift apart, and sometimes find each other again after many quiet years. A barn find is not simply an old car pulled from the shadows. It is a reminder that the life we live today will one day feel like the old days to someone else. The family road trips, the early mornings in winter, the late returns in the rain, the small arguments and big moments that once felt ordinary will, with enough years between them, turn into something fragile and precious. When a forgotten car is brought back into the light, it gives us a chance to touch that feeling with our own hands, to hear the echo of other lives in the creak of a seat spring or the tick of a cooling exhaust. If this long voyage through dust, memory, and resurrection has given you even one clear picture in your mind, maybe of a car from your own childhood, or a journey you thought you had forgotten, then you already understand why these stories matter. They are not about perfection or prices or trophies. They are about connection. They connect us to the people who came before us, to the places we once knew, and to versions of ourselves that we have not seen in a very long time. Here on Timeless Treasures, that is the heart of what we do. We are not chasing the loudest headlines or the wildest stunts. We are following the quiet threads that run through old garages, farmyards, and side streets. We are listening to the stories that owners tell with a pause in their voice and a distant look in their eyes. We are trying to give these machines and the people around them the respect and attention they deserve before time closes the door for good. If this film kept you company, if it made you feel calmer for a while, or if it woke up a memory that had been sleeping in the back of your mind, I would be honored to have you stay with us for the next chapter. Take a moment now to subscribe to Timeless Treasures so you do not miss the upcoming stories. We have many more journeys ahead, more barns to open, more forgotten keys to turn, more lives to reconnect with the machines that once carried them forward. I would also love to hear from you. In the comments below, tell us about the car that lives in your own memory. Maybe it was your parents' tired station wagon, your grandfather's pickup, your first slightly unreliable hatchback, or a car you saw once on a holiday and never forgot. Share where it took you, who sat beside you, and what you still remember when you close your eyes. Your story might be the spark for a future episode, or the encouragement someone else needs to go and look behind an old door on their own property. And if you know a friend or a family member who would feel something watching this film, send it to them. Let this story travel a little further, the way an old car travels from one pair of hands to another. Every view, every comment, every shared memory helps keep these machines alive, not just in the metal, but in the minds and hearts of the people who care about them. Thank you for spending this time on the road with us. This was one story among many, one car among millions, but perhaps it opened a small window into your own past. Until the next journey, take care. Keep your eyes open for quiet barns and forgotten driveways. And remember, somewhere, an engine that once meant the world to someone is still waiting for its chance to breathe again. If you want to be there when it does, stay with us here on Timeless Treasures.